Yes, we missed the tournament. Yes, I'm a little salty about it. I understand that winning the NIT is now the expectation, and we very well could do so. But what we missed this year, realistically speaking, was the guy to navigate everything down low on a daily basis. Kalib Boone and Moussa Cissa are insanely talented, but what they are not is the guy that we're about to bring on around the corner. Hang tight. Here it comes. It's about to go down. Oh, daggone it. Yeah, it is about to go down after my computer fixes itself. There we go.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We are available on all of your podcasting platforms, as well as YouTube. And as you can see, you can catch me at Aldeo State. We have a good one today, guys. Again, yes, I'm going to wear the saltiness of not making the tournament till the end of time because we got robbed, we got screwed by the NCAA yet again. Maybe there's a target. I don't know. The word conspiracy theory is no longer the same as it used to be, as we're finding out in life. But this season, one of the things that we really missed was that captain, right? The guy that you knew you were going to look to control the game, win the game. It doesn't matter. And luckily, we had that guy during all of the Sutton years, and we've kind of been lacking it. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome onto the show our main man from South Carolina, number 33 at 6'7", 240 pounds. Marshall Moses, how are you doing, my guy?
Well, thanks for having me.
I greatly appreciate your time, brother man. And, you know, we had the opportunity to talk a little bit off the air. So one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show is when you look at the qualifications that you need for the Big 12, when your anticipation is to make the tournament, and you know your resume stacks up to rank in the tournament, when your net Ken Palm is at 43, and you have the number 6 ranked strength of schedule in the United States of America in the toughest conference, Big 12 is the SEC of basketball. But the bureaucratic political bull honky will not allow it to show forth. So when you're prepared for the NCAA tournament and you know you're good enough for the NCAA tournament, when you get that screw job and you get announced the NCAA is not going to allow you to dance and you're NIT bound, can you explain to us a little bit how that feels and if you're able to respond?
Yeah, I can. I experienced that my senior year as well as my freshman year. Now I had different roles on the team each year. You know that I'm pretty sure that shaped my perspective on it. But as a senior, I decided, you know, even though we did not, I remember playing Harvard and stuff like that. We want to try to win this thing.
Yeah.
Because I learned throughout my 4 years, the next year coming is all you can really focus. I know it's tough, but as you get older, you realize that's all I can focus on is what I can achieve. And so you want to go into the following season with momentum, especially with returning players, especially if it's guys who are freshmen on that bench and you know that who might be good players sophomore and junior year. And so my senior year, that was my mindset. Yo, let's just keep it going. I know this sounds like the same old blah blah blah, but it's bigger than us, and we might do something great. You know, I found out who Klay Thompson was during my NIT experience. That was my last game ever. Yep, he scored 30 points. I didn't know who he was at the time, and he torched us, man. But my point being, you gotta make the best. When life gives you lemon, make lemonade, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And my freshman year, I'll be honest, a lot of us did not have that mindset. When we didn't make the tournament, and Coach Sutton, I believe, was on Coach Sean Sutton was on. It was on ESPN and stuff, so I don't think I'm saying anything that's like in house. He was on the hot seat at the time. He ended up getting fired that year. It was we wanted to do it more for him. The players didn't want to play in the NIT, but everybody loved Coach Sutton, and we was like, okay, well maybe if something good can come from this, it'll benefit our brother, our coach. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that was it. You know what I'm saying? That was the mindset going into it, and I think it was different because of where we were as a team, and where I was at.
And when you, I don't know, made that decision, was it more of a mental thing, right, than a physical thing? Because physically you were already prepared for the NCAA tournament. But again, if your heart is set on that, and especially after, so here's the deal. Right? People want to say that Mike Boynton should be on the hot seat. I think that's ridiculous. He's been here 6 years. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
2 years. Yeah. Unproductive. Didn't work out. 1 year, went to the tournament with Cade Cunningham, should have beat Oregon State to go to the Sweet 16. It didn't happen. It is what it is. And then he got robbed of having any capability because we all got robbed due to COVID, right? No NCAA tournament because of COVID. And then the next year, the NCAA comes down on us over a $300 flipping infraction. It gets me so heated, dude. That is so flipping stupid. The NCAA is the most ridiculous thing in the industry left. I'll get off that high horse. But he got robbed, right? But because of COVID, then he got robbed by the NCAA, and now he gets robbed again. So I don't understand how people can say he's on the hot seat when half of the time, literally physically half of the time he's been here, he has not been allowed to play in the NCAA tournament, right? So I don't get it, right? His recruiting is absolutely phenomenal. The way he connects with the players is beyond anything I've seen in my lifetime. And yes, okay, so the minuscule details, right? Calling plays out of timeouts and things of that nature. Okay, we can all admit maybe that needs some work. His half-court sets are not the greatest thing in the world, but there's so much more to the game, which is why I'm so happy to have you on. When you talk about returning players, we'll definitely get into that. But I want to go back just a hair. Let's go back to your high school days. I don't mean to make you feel old. If I do, I'm sorry. But let's go back. Let's go back to where you were young and in South Cat. If I recall correctly, your decision for Oklahoma State, you actually had offers from like NC State, K-State, O-State, right? KU. So you were a legitimate prospect, right? That was wanted by some of the biggest schools in America. Why Oklahoma State?
There's a person in my life who I'm not doing him enough justice. If I say my AAU coach, I lived with him. My parents I come from a great household. I don't come from a broken home or nothing, but my parents signed over guardianship to this guy, and he was the reason I lived in North Carolina. He's a very big deal in my life. I thought I was going to Kentucky, but I verbally committed to Kentucky, and Tubby Smith left my senior year and went to Minnesota. I believe he went to the University of Minnesota, and I was only verbally committed. And so I had to start looking through the schools that had been recruiting me more seriously.
Right.
And I asked this coach / mentor in my life, where should I go? And he said, I don't think there'll be any other fit for you better than Oklahoma State. My mind was set on, I liked OSU and I liked Marquette. Those were like my two teams because they were tough. They had physical, the kind of basketball I wanted to play. And
was that before they had Buzz Williams?
Before who?
Buzz Williams.
Was that the coach?
Yeah, from Marquette.
The coach they may have. It's hard to remember. That wasn't the coach that was recruiting me, but I'm pretty sure.
Got you.
Coach Crane might have been recruiting me. I'm not on that. Forgive me if the name is wrong. But they were heavy. They would be at all my high school games. They were who I talked to the most. But no, he told me Oklahoma State, and I took a visit there. And I took a visit, and Obi Manello and Marcus Dove were the hosts on my visit, and it was cold. It was nothing extreme about the visit. We didn't do anything. But those two guys were the most fun I had because I had to stay in the hotel and they played OU the next day. And so I'll never forget this. And Dove, don't you beat me up for this. Heck, we won the game. But he calls me. It's maybe like 11 p.m. And I get a call. We're in the same hotel. Sutton used to make the players hotel home game.
Yeah.
And he calls me. I answer the phone. Hello. He's like, is this the recruit? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what are you doing, sleeping? And I'm like, no. He's like, bring your butt down to whatever room. And so I come down there, and they're doing nothing in there. It's just Obi and Dove, who, looking back at this, I don't even know how they were roommates. Those are two turned up guys. But they were really prominent players too. So they were the
Yeah.
two roommates in there, and they were cracking jokes and talking. And I swear we must have stayed up to about 2 or 3 a.m. And you would have thought I actually known these guys. They had OU the next day. Now, for me as a high school guy, I didn't know exactly what that meant. I knew it was a big game, but then the next day I get to see all of the shoot around, the interviews, and then the actual game and the stands being full. And I couldn't help but think, yo, these guys stayed up all night with me last night, but they balled out. Like Dub, you know what Dub do? Dub was locking up their best players. It was a great game, and OSU won. And I was convinced that night. I couldn't even talk to my AAU coach sitting next to me. The crowd was so loud.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that night. After they won, we went into the locker room, and Coach Sutton was talking about what we were going to do the next day. And I was like, yeah, we can do all of that, but I'm ready to commit. Like, I want to come here.
Good, man. So the experience, Gallagher-Iba Arena, and that the intensity it provides. And you know, it's funny. So I had Kalib Boone on the program not too long back, and he pretty much said the same thing. He grew up in Oklahoma, right, in Tulsa, and he didn't really know a lot about the history of Oklahoma State, which I found crazy, right, because he lived an hour and a half down the road. But whenever he came on his official visit, it was the crowd, and it was the same thing. When he left, he couldn't hear. And he knew it was the sign that that's where he needed to be, and so on and so forth. So it is amazing what Gallagher-Iba can do, because as you can attest to, when it's full, it's not a game anymore. It becomes an experience, right? It becomes a physical experience.
Yes.
And I think we're getting back to it. Okay. We've got Kalib Boone could come back. Moussa Cissa could come back. Avery Anderson could come back. Bryce Thompson could come back. Right? These are guys that we anticipated coming into the season, most likely on their last year. Right? The assumption was there. Moussa Cissa was pegged to somebody who's going to be, NBA draft pick if he improved his offensive game. Kalib Boone kind of burst on the scene halfway through the season to make himself a legitimate threat to play professional basketball. And then Avery has the wrist injury, so he misses the biggest portion of the season. And Bryce, let's face it, man, you cannot be a damn near 40% shooter from the 3-point line. Maybe you can help me with this. And then be a 50% free throw shooter. How do you shoot 40% from out there and 50% on the daggone charity stripe, my guy? How does this happen? How have you ever seen a shooter that good struggle so much at the line?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not like a common thing, but I've seen it before in my basketball days. And shout out to Bryce. I think he'll get that. I don't think that'll stay that way.
Well, and that's the thing, is we've got all these guys that could potentially come back. Plus, you've got the number 9, and if we do get one more guy that I think we're going to get, we'll end up maybe number 6 recruiting class in America, signed LOIs, Bubba, not commits, right? So we have the number 9 class in the country right now with the opportunity to move in closer to the top 5 before it's all said and done. Plus, we potentially have 4 all Big 12 performers coming back. Last year, we got robbed, and it was the deepest team we've possibly ever had. Athletically, it was crazy, and it got wasted. This year, we had a lot of limitations. So we knew if we got injuries or foul troubles in any game, it was going to be rough to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about the decision, because I know at one point in time you made that decision to kind of adjust your game. You came in, people, I don't know, people, you need to go look at Marshall Moses' highlights, because you haven't seen it. You're sleeping on him. The dude looked like, a version of Brian Nash. Like, you were that athletic. You have highlight reels of you dunking over people. It's crazy what you honestly morphed into. Right? Because I had the opportunity to hang out with you in the dorms when you were going through that transition from the Sutton days, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tree of life and excellence, to Travis Ford, who was a phenomenal recruiter who just X's and O's wide seemed to, I don't know, not quite get it there. And it's funny, I remember talking to you about this in like 2005, 2006, and you were telling me the difference between the Sutton way and the Travis Ford way. So if you could kind of give us a peek behind the curtain to the masses here. What was that transition like? And what, in your opinion, why do you think the Travis Ford experiment didn't quite work out, even though he was always a top recruiter?
Okay, bet. Would you like me to speak to the Travis Ford experience or the transition from
The
being
transition.
LeBron?
Let's go. How was that transition like for you individually?
It was tough. And looking back on it, I would say it was tough because I had to change. I was always fascinated by how football players could be a wide receiver their whole football career and get recruited to a big college as a corner, or now
Yeah.
I might get a little more. But as a basketball player, that was foreign to me. Well, I probably should have watched what I was good judging because that's what happened to me, essentially. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
always was a tweener. I had a tweener, for people who may not know, is basketball rhetoric for doesn't really have a position. Yeah,
Yep.
maybe this, maybe that, can do some of this, can do some of that. And I
Yep.
was that in high school, but I was good enough to where it was a good thing. I was like a 3-4. I could bring the ball up, I could dribble, handle it, but I
Yep.
also still posted and faced up. And so when I got to O State, and I write about this in my book, From Bench Warmer to Starter, for people who haven't, it's on Amazon, check it out. I write about my Oklahoma State experience.
You
I
said it
sat the
was
bench
bench warmer to starter.
from bench warmer to starter. Yes, yes,
Yep.
sir. And
Okay.
and the premise is kind of like about this in a way, because I was sitting the bench. I had to go through all these mental, what is my basketball career going to be? Because I was starting high school. Now I don't know if I'm gonna get off the bench. And then when Ibrahim Thomas, my brother, left and went to Cincinnati, I was able to eventually find a role. And I became so fixated on fulfilling that role because it was bringing my team some success, and I was finally getting to play,
Right.
that it was a beneficial thing for me. Like you said, I got to end up having a hell of a career, and I enjoyed every minute of it in college and post college. I still got more so stuck in that role, being not being brash enough to go against maybe a coach's wish to show certain things like a shooter and things like that, because Coach Ford had a system where he needed his bigs to be bigs and his guards to be guards. And
Okay.
we had some good guards. We had James Anderson, we had Keaton Page, we had, the list goes on, Markel Brown, and then after those guys left, of course, Marcus Smart and Evans, Jawan Evans, I believe. So,
Well, and Terrell had a pretty long career in the
Terrell Harris,
yeah.
Terrell Harris got an NBA championship
Yep.
with the
Yep. With
Miami
the
Heat.
Heat.
Yep. Absolutely. He's a great shooter. He's a good friend of mine to this day, man. He's coaching and doing some very positive things in the Dallas area. So salute to Terrell. But yeah, that was the thing. So I think that's kind of that transition for me, even though I didn't like it initially. Then who knows what could have been if I would have been able to, show my versatility a bit more. I
Right.
still don't regret any of it because of how it turned out, how I found a way. And Coach Ford may get some slack, of course, but looking back on it, I really enjoyed. Not at the time, I didn't like playing for him because we did a lot of practicing. We get it in him. But at the same time, looking back, I like Coach Ford a lot, man, and I learned a lot from dude. I'm not so sure if he was so horrible at X's and O's as it was what a guy like Mike Boynton will have. And this is not retracting your statement or judging it. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
As for a guy like Mike Boynton, who, like you said, can get his players. He has a certain rapport with his players that is rare.
Yes.
And I'm not even talking about I've experienced a lot of coaches and played a lot of basketball. Other people, my peers, that is a rare thing. And I think that's what every coach wants, because it's the soil to grow whatever you really need.
Right.
I just don't know if we had that when I was playing. And we love Coach Ford. It's not on knock. I can't think of no friction or anything. It's just a different kind of rapport with the coach. And so at the term, I just wanted to make sure I fulfilled my role and didn't mess up. I didn't want coach to take me out of the lineup. It was more that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, man. You embraced it. You're right. You went from somebody who could be I don't know, not a traditional stretch four, but you could do more than a traditional stretch four, right? And you didn't exactly get to show that due to the system. But I will say again, so I jump on these things. You know what Twitter Spaces are?
yes.
So I've been jumping on a few of those, and there's like, a little group of us that talk on a pretty regular basis. But you get brought up in conversation, honestly, quite a bit. Not even by me, by other people, because like this year, we have Kalib Boone and Moussa Cissa, right? Two dudes that are both potentially NBA caliber. Moussa Cissa was supposed to be a one and doneer, right? That was all the conversation.
Mhm.
When you have two bigs on the court at the same time like that, can you explain why the spacing gets so screwed up? And it sometimes doesn't work, right? I envision the Twin Towers with the Spurs, right? Tim
Mhm.
Duncan, David Robinson. So coming into the season, that's what I had in my head, right? We were going to use Kalib Boone and Moussa Cissa like the Twin Towers, but we didn't. When they're on the court at the same time, we are far less productive than when they're on the court individually. How is that possible, my guy? Being that you played that position.
I think I have like a theory and a practical answer. I would say theoretically, I would say in basketball in general, we see, like you mentioned before, the potential for things, and we get that in our head before we even see what they look like together. You got to think, even Kobe, rest in peace, with Dwight Howard and all these people. LeBron's had it happen a couple times with people. It looks a certain way on paper, but then we got to forget these people have to learn the chemistry and learn how to connect. Practically, I think that with the Tim Duncan and David Robinson argument, Tim Duncan was able to stretch the floor in a way, and I also believe Kalib Boone really has this ability. I really like Kalib Boone. I think a lot of people do. I like him,
Yeah.
but he's got to show that. Like I was talking, he's got to show that a little bit more.
Yes.
He's got to show it, because I've seen him do it. I've seen him catch it at the top of the key, face
Yep.
a guy up and knock it down right there.
Well, there
And
for like 6 games, for like a 6 game stretch, he was averaging like 18 a game.
Yeah, no, Duke and ball, man. I think he's just got to not just be a bit big, but stretch the floor some, which he has the ability to do. And what that does is it opens up the space for those two to coexist on the floor.
Roger. Okay. I get it, man. So, real quick, we're going to continue to jump in, but I do have to give a nice little plug today for our sponsor. And as you guys know, FanDuel is legitimately the best way to go right about now because of all the things that they offer. And at this very moment, because of our relationship, you're going to be able to get your hands on our no sweat first bet, which is up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on literally almost anything from money lines, points, spreads, who's going to drain threes, who's going to miss, so on and so forth. Plus, the FanDuel even lets you combine your bets with a bigger chance with payouts and same-game parlays. So do not miss your chance to get your hands on this no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go there now to learn more. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Marshall. So, just so you're aware, your gangster Harry Potter glasses are. Oh, there you go. Now I see you. You were blinding me, man. Hey, there it is. I dig it, my guy.
I need these, man.
So after your Oklahoma State career, right? When you had that transition, and you inevitably ended up becoming like the big body beast that we needed at the time. Talk a little bit about your transition from Oklahoma State to the pros. I know you had some NBA workouts. I knew the tweener thing was something that was always going to come up. But what led you to end up having an insanely successful career overseas?
Honestly, without trying to sound like Tony Roberts or somebody, acceptance. You know what I'm saying? When I first came out of my senior year, I was NBA driven like most people. I had a chance, but I knew I had to knock at certain stigmas. The Thunder was probably my most successful workout, and unfortunately for me, during that summer and all my workouts and all that kind of stuff, I fractured my foot a little bit. So I did most of my earlier workouts coming out of college with a fractured foot, which all the teams commended, because I was still able to do me. But the problem was, in those initial workouts, I couldn't show my skill level. It's one thing to score inside and bang, and it's another thing to dribble off of. And so that became the knot was, dang, we love them. Thunder really showed the most love. They was like, oh, we really like you. You came, and I had a great workout too. And it was like, man, we just need to see a little bit more from you skill wise. And so my thing initially was to go overseas and show my skill level. And I did that for the first couple of years, but the further you remove from college, this is my opinion, so the young guys don't get discouraged. Shout out players like James White and I forgot the other guy who played in the NBA at 29 years old. Before that, the further you get away from your college experience and the further you get away from not being in the league, each year that window shrinks. Each year. And I think that's for every guy. So you get some people who still get through that window, but for the most part, if you played in college and you're 4 or 5 years removed, and you're not in the G League, if you're not going to do what, shout out my bro Lindy Waters, if you're not going to do what a guy like him has done,
bro, you see his new contract?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So shout out to the people who are doing it, and I want to say, but look at how few and far between
right.
they exist, and so and Lindy Waters is, I've always said this, and I've always learned this: if you can shoot the ball, you got a chance. If you can shoot the ball, especially if you're tall, if you can shoot the ball, you have a chance. That's a different person. I wasn't that. I could shoot, but I wasn't no dang Lindy Waters. And so I was trying to have to find a place and find a way to – I couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And overseas, I had found a home. You know what I'm saying? I was traveling over there with my family with me, and I was really living a great life. And I had a conversation with this AAU coach guy again who's doing this interview, realized he's giving me a lot of great advice in life. But I was having I was like, man, I'm over here averaging 20 and 12, bro. I should be in the NBA. I'm going to do this and that. And he said, Marshall, let's be real, bro. No, you're not. He was like, you're happy, and that's okay. He was like, you don't have to put on this front. Like, he was like, bro, I see you in your pictures, and I see you happy with your family, and you traveling, and you balling out. And he's like, you're enjoying your life. He's like, I've coached enough guys and know those guys who have that burning hunger to, I got to get to the NBA. But he said, no, you might have some talent. You might have talent at that level, but you don't have that desire, and that's okay. And from that moment forward, I kind of started to think differently, and he was right. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, well, yo, I'm going to make the best of this. I had built my rep up because overseas can go a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. I wasn't Euro League, but I was high enough status to where I could kind of choose where I wanted to go, which country, choose where I wanted to live, get health insurance for my family, choose. But, it was a dream for some people that I didn't even know to have because I'm from the States. You know what I'm saying? I only know NBA. So that was pretty much my transition, really.
Now, the entire time that you were doing this, we'll get into the music stuff. As you already know, you were the only person.
I want to say too, sorry, Lindy Waters, because I'm known as the one-on-one. I'm one-on-one champion around. I got a very one-on-one style game. Lindy Waters is the only person to beat me one-on-one that I can remember in my adult life. And I've played a lot of players. I used to me and James Anderson used to go at it. People don't know it used to be a thing. Lindy Waters on his recruiting visit. Now, I did start off thinking he was just some little kid or something. But he walked up to me, was shooting around, and he told me he was a recruit. And we challenged me to a one-on-one, and we started playing. He won. I asked him to play again. I won. And then by the third one, we were both kind of like, it was serious, actually. It wasn't just shooting around and seeing what he got. And he beat me, which is the only game I actually count. We were both really playing. And I was trying to win. So I want to shout out to Lindy Waters when I said, that's what I'm saying. And that was his thing. He could just shoot the ball at such a high clip. Keaton could too, but he wasn't a giant. Lindy Waters is tall. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I was like, man, ain't really nothing you could do with this.
Well, and coming out of college, he was known as like a sniper, right? A sharpshooter. He really developed his handles and his athleticism on his own, right? After he graduated. So yeah, kudos to Lindy. He's a self-made product, because coming out of Oklahoma State, there was nobody talking about him ever being in the NBA, right? Yeah. You, like you said, James Anderson, Markel Brown had a pretty good run. I think everybody was pretty sold on Jeffrey Carroll potentially being in that same breath, but Lindy's the one that took the torch and ran with it. So congrats to him. You're 100% right. So here's something that we're doing that's kind of new, Marshall. Give me a second here, brother man. So we got to split this up into two parts, right? So I got to let the fine people out there go, and then we'll just flip it and hit a part two. Cool?
All right, cool.
All right, brother man. All right, y'all. You heard it here. We're just going to roll right into this next one. So thank you very much for clicking in to make Locked On Oklahoma State your first listen. Again, my name is Cody Stovall. Thank you much. We'll have part two of Marshall Moses right around the turn here.